welcome to another episode of the Rise Above Cancer podcast. First off, I just wanted to say a massive thank you to anyone that has listened to episode 1, and for anyone that's given me feedback and any recommendations for future episodes. Thank you so much. I'm really excited. So today, as you can see from the heading of this podcast, I'm going to be talking about ocular melanoma. But also July is and has been a really busy month. So I kind of wanted to chat about what's been happening. So the most important thing that's happened this month is, sorry Aaron, it's been your birthday too, but I had my 6-month appointment. So I want to chat about how I'm currently feeling, how the appointment went, how I was feeling leading up to that appointment, what's the process when I go for my appointments, how it kind of goes, what the day looks like, and, well, what the outcome is, which is probably what you're all going to want to know. So before obviously getting into all that, I think it's a good thing to talk about ocular melanoma, what it is, what causes ocular melanoma, how it's treated, and how you can prevent it, I guess. So, ocular melanoma is a really rare form of eye cancer. About 750 cases a year in the UK are diagnosed. So, melanoma is cancer that develops from pigment-producing cells called, if I say this right, I can't even say it, melanocytes. Melanocytes? Yeah, I think that's right. Most melanomas develop in the skin, but it is also possible for them to occur in other parts of the body, including the eye. Eye melanoma obviously commonly affects the eyeball, but sometimes doctors will call it uveal or choroidal melanoma, depending on exactly which part of your eye is affected. And it can also affect the conjunctiva, which is the thin layer that covers the front of your eye or even in the eyelid. So what causes eye melanoma? So it occurs when the pigment-producing cells in the eyes divide and multiply too rapidly. And this produces a lump of tissue, but it's more commonly known as a tumour. So I've been doing some research, and it's not clear exactly why this occurs, but there's a few things that I've taken from my research. So apparently the lighter eye colour, so if you have blue, grey or green eyes, you are at a higher risk of developing eye melanoma compared to those who have brown eyes. If you are white or pale skin, eye melanoma mostly affects white people and is more commonly in those with fair skin. Use of sunbeds, which I think is quite an obvious cause, really. There's been so much in the media, I think, about how sunbeds and having so much UV radiation can affect your body, and I think it's a no-brainer. Like, I don't think sunbeds should even be allowed to be a thing anymore. You've seen so many stories come out now how people that used to use them all the time that have now unfortunately been diagnosed with some sort of skin cancer. Yeah, they just shouldn't exist. I think they just need to get rid of all these sunbed places. And then the other obvious one then is overexposure to sunlight. So, this increases your risk of skin cancer and may also increase the chance of having eye melanoma. And it does increase with age as well. So it is quite rare that I was diagnosed when I was 31. But most cases being diagnosed are people in their 50s. And I do believe that to be true, because every time I go to an appointment, I do kind of feel like the odd one out, because there's always a lot of people in that room that are much older than me. But also grateful as well that I'm obviously younger, having it in a way, which actually sounds weird as I said it. But because obviously mine was caught quite, early. So in regards to symptoms of eye cancer doesn't always have obvious symptoms and may only be picked up during a routine eye test, which is exactly what happened to me. Like, if I hadn't have gone for that eye test, I think maybe later down the line, like a long time after, I probably would have noticed. But some of the symptoms of eye cancer can include shadows, flashes of light or wiggly lines in your vision, blurred vision, a dark patch in your eye that's getting bigger. So I didn't realise I had a dark patch on my eye until I had my eye test. And it was when I had my normal eye test, but then the optometrist said, we need to do further tests if that's okay. And then I went into a room and covered one eye and did like the light test where I push a button every time I could see the light. And then it wasn't until we swapped and it was just my left eye, my bad eye, as I call it now, was the one that was doing the test. And I could see this massive, like, dark blob on my eye. And I knew then that something definitely wasn't right. But it wasn't until I went for that eye test did I realise that there was something not right. So partial or total loss of vision, bulging of one eye, a lump on your eyelid or in the eye that's increasing in size, eye irritation that's not going away, and pain in or around your eye, although this is rare. But obviously, these symptoms, it's not just eye cancer. These are more minor eye conditions as well. So please don't think, oh my God, I've got this and I think I've got cancer. That's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is, if you have any issues at all with your eyes, then you need to go get your eyes tested. It does not mean that you have eye cancer, but it's important to get the symptoms checked by your optician or your optometrist or doctor as soon as possible. So in regards to diagnosis then, I think it's more common that you would probably be in an optician with your optometrist if they suspect you have a serious problem with your eyes, and they'll refer you then to a specialist eye doctor. So I went to the opticians and obviously they found something. She called it a freckle at the back of my eye, which kind of dampens it down a bit really, which at the time was probably the best thing because I was obviously 6 months pregnant. And then I went to hospital then a couple of days later, and I obviously had my eye examined. So there's a couple of different ways that they can, or a couple of different tests that they do. So the first one I think they did is called a fluorescent angiogram. So this is where photographs of the suspected cancer or tumour are taken using a special camera, which obviously takes photos of the back of your eye. And it's after some dye has been injected into your eye. So I remember that I had this orange dye put into both of my eyes to have this, obviously, photo taken because it highlights the tumour. That's why they put the dye in, is because it helps with that process. And I remember after coming out, because obviously I had to go into the appointment on my own because we were in lockdown again, and obviously being on your own, 6 months pregnant, and seeing this scan of your eye where you clearly have something wrong with it. And she did use the word tumour. I remember the doctor in the hospital used the word tumour. Obviously it was pretty tough. I held it together in that room. I honestly don't know how, because if anybody knows me, then like, I'm a crier. I enjoy showing my emotions. But through that appointment, I kind of held it together, and it wasn't until I got into the car with my husband Aaron afterwards, and I was crying. I'm laughing about it now, but like, I was crying like orange tears because of the dye that was in my eye. Yeah, funny now. But yeah, so that's how they kind of highlight then the tumour. They also do like the generic eye examinations that you get in your opticians, where they kind of like shine the light in your eye and they ask you to look up, down, left, right, blah, 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 blah. And that's how they check for abnormalities. They can also do an ultrasound scan of your eye, which is one of the most uncomfortable things ever. So it's exactly what you think that it is. Your eyelid is closed though, obviously. It's still not nice. So basically, it's exactly like when you're pregnant. They put like the jelly on the end of the I don't really know what thing's called. That basically measures high frequency sound waves to create the image of the inside of your eye. It's absolutely mad how like they can do it. But they literally have you to close your eye and they put this cold, like a horrible object on your eye and they move it back and forwards. And we all know how sensitive our eyes are, so it's not great. It doesn't take very long though, which is good. And it allows the doctor to find out more about the position of the tumour and try to work out the size. It's really, really clever how they can get this information. And I think the ultrasound scan from like my previous appointments and stuff, in my checkups, like they can see the thickness of the tumour from doing the ultrasound scan. That's the scan that shows them how thick it is. So yeah, so those are a couple of things, just the eye examination, the ultrasound scan of the eye, and the photos of the back of your eye. And so obviously I've been doing a bit of research about it, and another thing, so which I can't even imagine if somebody had to have this done. So they can do a biopsy, which they get a thin needle and they basically stick it in your eye to remove a small sample of the cells to check for the tumour. I believe that this is like really rare, because obviously I can't imagine that would be a very pleasant experience, even worse than the ultrasound scan in your eye. But yeah, so you can also have that done as well. So after you've had the checks, this is probably more like what happened with me. It was in my local hospital, and then if they suspect then that you have melanoma of the eye, then they'll refer you to a specialist centre for eye cancer. Now, there are 4 in the UK, so you've got London, Sheffield, Liverpool and Glasgow. But I think the 2 main ones, so it's Moorfields Hospital in London and St Paul's Eye Clinic in Liverpool, which is the one that I go to. They are the kind of nationally recognised eye hospitals. So they'll obviously send, you to those, whichever is closest to you. And that's where then they pretty much do the same tests, but obviously because they are specifically eye centres, the equipment is so much better. And obviously they see people from all over, so they see different cases. Like, I can't explain to you. They are just absolutely amazing at their jobs. And probably, no, it is the reason why I still choose to go to Liverpool, because, like, why wouldn't you? If you had the option to go to the best place to make sure you're being looked after and cared for, like, why wouldn't you? Like, I know we have to travel like over 400 miles round trip, but having that kind of comfort and knowing that I'm in the best place, like, it just makes such a difference. But yeah, they do such an amazing job, and I'm very grateful for them. That's all I'm going to say before I have an absolute meltdown. Okay, sort yourself out, Aimée. Let's keep going. What am I doing? What am I talking about? Okay, so yeah, diagnosis. So treatments then. So there are a few different treatments, and it obviously depends on your situation and how, far along, I guess, the cancer is. Yeah, it depends on the size and the location of the tumour. So there are food treatments. So the one I had, which is plaque radiotherapy or brachytherapy, I think is how you pronounce it. So I had a radioactive plaque, which is about the size of a 20p piece. Sorry if anyone is a bit squeamish. Basically, inserted into the back of my eye. So I had a surgery to put this radioactive disc into the back of my eyeball to sit on top of the tumour. And it can be placed up to a week to start to kill the cancerous cells. So because my tumour, fortunately, wasn't huge, I had it in, I think it was for 2 to 3 days. So, yeah, so that's what I had. There is proton beam therapy or external radiotherapy. And they basically use a machine which carefully aims beams of radiation at the tumour to kill the cancer cells. Now, I could have had this treatment, but because I was 6 months pregnant, I obviously needed whatever option was available the quickest, and plaque radiotherapy was the quickest, I think. So I was getting diagnosed December 2020, and they told me I could have my surgery. Well, I had my surgery, so this was the 18th of December, and I had my surgery on the 12th of January. So within 3 weeks, I had my surgery. Now, if I wanted to have proton beam surgery, so this one is slightly different. So you have to have one trip to Liverpool to have your eye measured and to figure out where they need to place these markers on your eyeball for the proton beam to shoot the radiotherapy to make sure it gets the tumour. So that's one trip up. The second trip up then is to have the surgery to have these markers placed on your eyeball. And then the third trip up to Liverpool then is for Monday to Friday, is to go to the hospital to have this beam. I think it's about half an hour to an hour, literally just like on your eye to do its thing and to kill the cancer. So obviously, because there's 3 different trips up to Liverpool, that would have taken a lot more time. And I think they told me it would have been like the end of February. And I was obviously due to have Evan in March. So we went for the plaque radiotherapy. So those are the 2 main treatments. They do sometimes do surgery to remove the tumour or part of the eye, but obviously this is quite rare, I think. And it depends on the size of the tumour and obviously if you still have vision in your eye. And obviously if you're, in some cases, you do have to have your eye removed, which is called inoculation. This is necessary if obviously the tumour is large or if you've lost your vision. The eye will then eventually be replaced with an artificial eye that matches your other eye. So there's a few different options. I'm very grateful that I didn't have to have the removal of my eye. I think I can imagine if anyone has ever had to have that done. For me, I think I would worry about then what happens if something happens to my other eye. Yeah, it's wild. Unfortunately, chemotherapy is rarely used for eye melanoma, but it may be suitable for other types of eye cancers. So thankfully, there was no need for me to have any chemotherapy. Okay, so we spoke about biopsies a little bit earlier on. So I did actually have a biopsy, but this was during my second surgery, so this was when I was having the plaque removed, I asked them if they could do it then, because obviously I was asleep, so I obviously wouldn't have been able to feel it or anything. So I had the biopsy then, so when they stick the needle into the tumour, they suck a bit of it out and then they test it to see, obviously, how things are going to go. So whether I'm at high risk of it spreading, medium risk of it spreading, or low risk spreading. And thankfully, I was low risk spreading. So when I go for my checks now, because your eyes are linked with your liver, I have ultrasound scans on my liver just to check that I've got no tumours that have kind of passed from my eye down. So that's another thing as well. So, anyone that's had ocular melanoma, they will have ultrasound scans when they have their checkups. So how can you prevent it? So, like I said earlier, what causes it is a bit unknown. There's no exact facts of what exactly causes ocular melanoma, but I think it's common sense really how to prevent it. Wear sunglasses. Don't wear the pound ones you can get from Primark. Make sure you invest in good sunglasses that will actually protect your eyes and not make you look cool. Stay away from sunbeds. Absolutely stay away from them. I'm sorry, but having a tan for a little bit is not worth getting cancer, is it? Let's face it. So stay away from sunbeds. Discourage anyone and everyone that uses them. Use fake tan instead if you're going to do it. Stay away. And obviously, if you do go on holiday or if you do get sun, just be, don't be stupid. Make sure you wear sun cream. Make sure you take breaks away from the sun. I absolutely love the sun. Which obviously, I still do love the sun, even though I know it might be one of the reasons why I had bloody cancer in the first place. But now I'm more aware of how long I've been in for the sun. Make sure I wear sun cream. Make sure I wear my sunglasses. And do the things that you can to obviously still enjoy being in the sun, but also just mindful of looking after yourself, I guess. And the biggest thing, which I am going to continually talk about, is having your eyes tested. Honestly, having that eye test saved my life. If I didn't go for that routine eye exam, I don't even wear glasses, guys. So, I had no other reason other than it was in the middle of lockdown. I had a letter saying, you haven't had your eye tested in a couple of years. You do for one. So I thought, I've got nothing else better to do. We're in lockdown. Gets me out of the house, gets me out of work. So I'm going to go and get my eyes tested. Turns out I have cancer. But yeah. And I'm not saying, eye tests can find so many other different things. It's not just your vision. And you don't even have to have any issues with your eyes to go get them tested. And I think that's the message that I want to really drill into people, is that I think from my young age, I always thought you only went to the opticians if you had an issue with your vision. And I think we need to, squash that, get rid of that. Everyone should go for their eyes tested. And I think especially if, you're in your 20s, 30s plus, and you've never been for an eye test, I think it's really important. So when you go for an eye test as well, so if you haven't been for an eye test in a long time, and I'm talking more than 2 years, or if you've never been for an eye test, this is your reminder. Aimée is telling you to get your appointment booked in. And if your optician offers it, please get an OCT scan. So an OCT scan is basically a photo of the back of your eye that they can obviously see more than just the optician looking in your eye. So please get one of them done as well, because honestly, having the OCT scan, I think, is what found my cancer. So please go get your eyes tested. Okay, so now we're going to talk about July and how crazy, mental busy it's been for me. So I'm probably going to start with my appointment, because that's, like I said, the biggest thing, other than my husband's birthday, that's happened this month. Yeah, so it was last week. So leading up to the appointment, I don't know, I think with the appointments, I think I blank it out of my mind, and then it's not until a few days before then does it actually hit me that it's happening. And like the 6 months, it goes really, really quickly. And before I know it, it's here, you know. And about a week or two, I think it was the week before the appointment, it was like 3 or 4 nights in a row where I found it really hard to get to sleep. And I was waking up at like 5 in the morning. And obviously, so we have a 2-year-old, so the more sleep that we can get, the better. So I knew that there was something wrong then, you know, like I couldn't understand why I was waking up so early and finding it so hard to go to sleep. Like nothing had changed. Like, you know, when I find it hard to sleep, like I make sure that I exercise, make sure that I have a really nice hot bath. I try to stay off my phone before I go to bed. Like there's things that I do to try and like help myself, you know, make it easier for me to go to sleep. And when I was doing all those things, like it still wasn't helping. And I didn't really think about it too much as to like what else could it have been. But thinking back now, like subconsciously, I think I was obviously thinking about my appointment, and yeah. And I was actually talking to Aaron today, and I was talking to him about what I was going to talk about today on the episode, and I mentioned my sleep, and I said I think it was because of my appointment, and he literally said when I was talking to him at that time about my sleep, he knew that it was probably my appointment, but he didn't want to say anything because he didn't want me to then worry about my appointment, if that makes sense. I think my body knew what was coming, and yeah, I was obviously overthinking in my sleep or something, which happens than I would like, but hey ho. Yeah, so I was feeling very anxious, and I think especially like the few days before, like I think I kind of felt like if anyone had said the wrong thing to me, I probably just would have burst into tears. Where any other time, like I would have been fine. Yeah, very anxious, on edge. Scan anxiety is definitely a thing for anyone that has to have scans for whatever condition they have. It's a difficult time, it's a tough time. So how did the appointment go itself then? So we went up, what day is it? It's Thursday today. So it was a week ago today. So a week ago today, we went up, and so normally we would stay the night before, because it is quite far to go with Evan. But we drove up really early on the Thursday morning and got to Liverpool. And to be fair, it was a lovely drive. There was no traffic or anything. Plain sailing. I got to the hospital and we went straight. We were a bit early actually, and we went straight to the St. Paul's Eye Clinic and we checked in with them, and then I went straight up to what's it called? Radiology, to go get my liver scan. So went up, got called in to have the liver scan, and I gotta say it was the first one that I actually enjoyed. I think they're called radiologists, and I just made that up. But anyway, the guy that was performing the ultrasound, he was really, really lovely, and so was his assistant. And they had I think it's the first time I noticed this, but they were playing music in the background, but it was really nice, and it kind of I don't know, I was just concentrating on the music, and it was nice to just kind of calm me down a little bit. Having your liver scan can be quite tricky, and it can be quite painful, because obviously the kind of like, obviously your ribs and stuff are there as well, and they're using the ultrasound, like obviously to kind of poke into your, find your liver and stuff. But yeah, so he did that, nearly fell into the bed as well. Oh my God, he asked me to move back closer to him, and I honestly nearly came flying off the bed, which was funny. But yeah, so they scanned that. He also said, do you know you have a gallstone? And I was like, yes, every time I come here, you tell me. So I also have that, but lucky that it's not playing up at the moment, which is great. But he said at the time when he was scanning me, he said, oh, looks good. But he said, obviously, you'll get your results now when you go to St. Paul's. So that was done, literally quick and easy. I checked in for the scan, and within like 5 minutes I was called in, had scan, came out, went straight back down then to St. Paul's. And yeah, so when you check in with St. Paul's, then you have to go and have your eyes dilated. And I'm kind of used to it now, but when they put those drops in initially, it is proper stingy. And it takes a while for you kind of to like blink them in and get used to them. And then you do a vision test, so they just check to make sure, that your vision hasn't changed. Because that is one of the, what's the word? Basically, you can obviously have issues with your vision after you've had the surgery. I can't even remember what it is. Oh God. Not a symptom. Side effect, is it? Yeah, side effect. You could have double vision, which thankfully I didn't have. But obviously you can also lose some of your vision as well. So that's why they check that, to make sure that's all okay. And they check the pressures in your eye. And everything looked great, which was fab. And then literally as soon as I came out of that, I sat down. And then Shirley, one of the nurses, so like she was there from the start. She's great. So she called me in then to talk about my liver scan, which I couldn't believe how quick like those results had come in. They must have literally done the test, sat down the computer, put in the results, and sent it straight. So she called me in then, we had a little chat. And yeah, she told me everything looked good. No tumours in my liver, thank goodness. And yeah, it's just really nice. And I think that's why I still enjoy going to Liverpool as well, is because the staff there know you and obviously remember you, and you build that relationship. So when you go to your appointments, like knowing that there's people there that know you already and kind of know what you've been through and were literally there when you were going through it, like it makes such a difference. Try not to curse that again. So then after having a chat with Shirley, went back into the waiting room, and then I was waiting for to have my photographs done. So yeah, then got called to have my photographs. So there's 2 different machines, and one I think is like an OCT scan, just like a standard OCT scan, and then the other one then is when they look in the back of your eye. So had both of them done. It's painless. It doesn't hurt. Like an OCT scan doesn't hurt. Neither did the other one. The photographs, you just look at the lights and just make sure your eyes are wide open, and they literally just take pictures. It's really, really easy. And then the longest bit then is waiting to see the consultant, who then goes through the results with you straight away. And that's another thing that I really appreciate, is that you get the results straight away. With a lot of scans and things like that, obviously you have to wait, sometimes weeks in some cases. So, it's great that we can get those results straight away. So we were called to see a consultant, and he did an ultrasound on my eye, which the computer decided to switch itself off after he did it the first time. So then I had to have another one. Which, it is what it is, isn't it? But I wouldn't be about it, because it's not very comfortable. But Yeah. So he had the results from that then straight away, and said that, so basically, the easiest way I can describe this is, so the footprint of my tumour, so kind of, if you look in bird's eye on top of the tumour, it's exactly the same size, okay? But on the scans, you can see around the tumour, like, it looked kind of like a white line or like a cloudy line that's around it. And that's the scarring of the radiotherapy. And the idea is that the radiotherapy has done its thing, it's scarred around the tumour, and then eventually, well, it's doing its thing now, so it's shrinking the tumour and killing the cancer. So the good thing is, obviously, none of the tumour is kind of like out of that line, out of that scarring, which is fantastic. And then the ultrasound then is when they check the thickness of the tumour. So every 6 months I've been there. So I don't know, what year are we? 2023. So I think this was the 4th. Yeah, so 21, 2 and 22, and we're now in 23. Yeah, so about 4 6-month checkups after my surgery. This is the 4th one. So the one before was when we had the really good news that the thickness of the tumour was less than a third of the original size. Yeah, that's right. Less than a third of the original size. And when we went again now this time, it's shrunk like a little bit again. So it's obviously still there. But I think the thickness is what they kind of look for. But the thickness is getting thinner. The footprint of the tumour is the same size, but the thickness of the tumour is shrinking. So, because it's still shrinking, it's still going the right way, at the end of the appointment, the guy was like, so we'll see you in 12 months? And I was like, you what? Did not kind of expect that. Which I obviously burst into tears straight away, because I think you get used to going every 6 months and having that comfort of knowing then in 6 months' time, you know, you're going to be checked to make sure everything's okay. To go from every 6 months to 12 months, like, it's a lot to process. But it is obviously really, really good news, and I'm really happy that everything is going as it should. And obviously I'm so lucky enough to be able to go up to Liverpool, to like the best place ever to be seen. So it's trying to find all the positive things that have happened from that appointment to kind of carry on with every day, you know? So yeah, so obviously there was lots of tears, because it is good. And I know it is the best thing, it is the right thing. I know, like, every appointment since has been positive. Obviously it is, you know, quite hard sometimes, you know, knowing that it's still there. But like I've said to people before, like, sometimes, like, living with cancer, obviously in my case, I'm not saying for anyone else's, but in my case, knowing that, like, every time I've gone for my checkups, it's been positive, and knowing it's still there, like, I think for me, if I was told, yep, there we are, it's gone, you're cancer free, you know, it's gone, whatever you've done, you've done it. And then to then be told, however long down the line, oh, it's back again. And then to have to kind of go through, you know, all that again. Like, you know, and I've spoken to people that have had to do that, and it's like, it's awful. So I think sometimes, like, knowing that I'm probably going to live with this for the rest of my life, like, it's never going to be a surprise then, do you know? It's really difficult to explain. I hope I've explained that well. I'm obviously trying not to cry again. I didn't expect, well, let's face it, it's me, so I did expect to be some what emotional, and I'm not sorry for being emotional. I think it's important to show your emotions and just be real and just be true to yourself. And I think that's why I wanted to start this podcast as well. Like, I wanted to document, you know, how I'm feeling, what I'm going through, and then hopefully one day somebody who might be going through something similar will listen to it and kind of like resonate with them and help them and know that, you know, cancer is shit. It's fucking shit. That's the first swear word. Yes. Yeah, it's fucking shit, but, you know, you still have to live your life. I think initially when I was first diagnosed, I think if I hadn't been pregnant, I think I probably would have felt differently, and I think I would have thought, oh, fuck, this is it now, this is the end. What's the point? But you just gotta keep going, and you gotta find what brings you joy in life and just keep doing those things. It is hard to get sucked into, you know, that negative space that cancer unfortunately creates for people in their lives. But it's so important to surround yourself with good people. It's important to do things that bring you joy, that make you happy. You know, that saying is, like that video I've seen before where you've got a glass of water, it's got dirt in it. If you keep trying to fish the dirt out, it's obviously going to take away all the good stuff as well. So if you just fill it with good stuff, eventually the shit will come out. That's probably not the best way that I would describe that. But in my head, that makes sense. So, yeah. Kind of gone off on a bit of a tangent now, and I don't really know what I'm talking about. Okay, yeah, so that's how my appointment went. I kind of did go off on a tangent. I'm sorry. Not sorry. I need to start apologising, but I'm not sorry. Yeah, that was my appointment. So my next appointment now is going to be July 2024. Yeah, which is wild to me now. So 1 year. Yeah. I got this. So July then. So beginning of this month, my husband Aaron and my son Evan, we went up to visit friends. Indy live in London. They invited us up to, well, they were going to run the Race for Life in Victoria Park and invited Aaron to come up and do it with them. And so we went up for the weekend and stayed with them, which was lovely. And earlier on this year, I was asked by Race for Life, so Cancer Research UK, if I would tell my story for them. So I'm one of 5 people that were recorded. So they came down earlier on this year and they filmed me talking about my story and obviously recorded the audio. So the audio of my story is being played across, and it's still mad, and I'm going to say it out loud now, 450 Race for Life events in the UK this year. So up and down the country, people are going to hear my voice and hear my story, which blows my mind. And on that day in London, so the guys were doing the 10K. So the 10K is always the first race of the day. So we were there super early, and obviously they do a little speech on the stage and get everybody warmed up. They get an instructor to come out, do a warm up. It's a lot of fun. And then obviously they go to the starting line. And just before they go to the starting line, they play, obviously, people's stories. And the story that they played, it wasn't mine. It was another gentleman who's gone through cancer. So it was obviously very emotional anyway that day. And even though they didn't play my story at that time, like, obviously seeing everyone there with all like their signs on their back of who they're running for and stuff. Like, it's just really emotional, even if you don't have cancer yourself, because I've done Race for Life before being diagnosed, and like, it's hard not to break down when you hear all these stories and see everyone there and everything. Because everyone, obviously, the reason they're doing it's because they've been affected by cancer, whether it's themselves directly or if they know somebody and they're doing it for them. So it is very emotional. So I was obviously already in tears just before my husband and my friends were starting to do their 10K. So they went off, started the run. I'm in tears with Evan in the pram, and I kind of then didn't really know what to do. So I went over and started having a chat with the lady, the lovely lady. Her name is Topaz, and she's from London, and she kind of hosted the event. And so I had a chat with her, and she was asking about my t-shirt, because I was wearing my Rise Above Cancer t-shirt. I had a chat, explained to her then what I'd been through, and then I mentioned that obviously I had told my story with cancer research, and she was like, oh my god, we got to get this on. So she went to talk to the technical team that were there, and they found my audio. So bearing in mind, Aaron, Indian liver, already doing the 10K, I'm standing there with Evan, and they're about to kind of do exactly the same thing all over again for the 5K runners, and they play my story. So I was thrilled, because like I wanted to record it so I could like play it back to Aaron and my friends, and you know, to be standing there watching kind of other people's reactions as well. It was weird. I think there's no other way to describe it. However, what I did not expect was the reaction that we had. I don't know how many times I've cried so far, but yeah, so my audio started playing, and obviously at exactly the same time it started playing, Evan started fussing, so I had to pick him up out of the pram, and he was fine, like he wasn't upset or anything, he just wanted to be held. So I was holding him, and I realised after the fact, because I was recording, I was swaying side to side. That definitely wasn't to like soothe Evan, that was to soothe me, because I was just sobbing. Luckily I had sunglasses on. But as soon as the audio finished, then Topaz on stage said, and there she is, there's our Aimée. And then women from the crowd started coming towards me to give me a hug. Everyone was crying. Everyone was cheering. It was just so... It was obviously quite overwhelming, but like so heartwarming at the same time. And obviously, like, over the microphone and stuff, like, she said that Aaron's currently running the 10K, and I think everyone could probably see that I was a mess anyway. So it was really, really lovely. Like, I'll never forget that, you know? So yeah, that was a big thing that happened in July, which I'm really, really proud of. And the next Race for Life that I'll be going to, hopefully, is this Sunday in Swansea. It's going to be looking like another rainy day like it was last year. Last year I had the opportunity to start the race, and it was so much fun. So I had them horns. I actually got up on stage and said a little bit as well, but to start the race I had on them horn things, and they obviously, everyone was counting down, and then when it was 0 I was sounding the horn, and everyone was running by and high-fiving me, and yeah, it was awesome. Yeah, so that happened last year. So we'll be heading down to Race for Life this year. Aaron's going to be doing the 10K, and yeah, just be there cheering him on. Hopefully the weather will ease. The forecast says that it's going to be raining, but we all know what our weather is like. It could be saying that it's raining, but actually it could be snowing, or be dry or hopefully sunny. So fingers crossed for sun on Sunday. But not just my audio is going to be played, but the video footage as well. So in London on the 23rd of September is the Shine Night Walk in London, which is the marathon walk around all the sites of London. And before that starts, it starts really late at night, as you can imagine, because it's called Shine Night Walk. So they gotta wait until it's dark. So it's not just a full marathon. They do a full marathon walk, a half marathon walk, and I believe they do a 10K as well. I'm not sure if they do a 5K. So, it's quite, because it's a walk as well, a lot more people are able to do it. So that's on the 23rd. But before the start, like when they do like the exercises and telling the stories and stuff, because they actually videoed me, they'll have a screen there because it's such a big event. And obviously it's in London. It's the only one that they do. So my video footage will be on there too. I'm hoping that I can go, even if it's just to kind of, I don't think I'm going to be able to do a marathon walk. That's going to take me hours. Maybe, I don't know. I need to talk myself into doing it, I think. We'll see. Even if I don't do the full, even if I do a half marathon or the 10K, I think I just want to be there and be in that kind of environment. Like, even though it's really emotional, like, I think when I came back from that weekend in London, I just felt really inspired. I think it gives you that kick up the arse of, we do only have one life and we need to just live it. Time is finite, as Mickey and I always say. Yeah, that's something to think about. And I've just realised, I've just checked the time and I've been talking on my own for 55 minutes. Like, that is wild. So, I think I better try and wrap this up. Yeah, so what's coming? We've got the market in Unit 7 on Saturday. I'm really, really excited. We've got new merch that 601 Industries. I'm giving him a shout out. Sean, he's awesome. If you need any merch, check him out. Yeah, so I got some t-shirts, some button badges and some mugs with him. I screen printed tote bags that my husband Aaron designed, and they are fucking class. I love them and I cannot wait to see them out in the wild. So they'll be there on Saturday. The zine is out. I did a collab with Mickey from Girls to the Front and we made a Know Your Body resource, and I am so fucking proud of us. My friend Janie also shared her story in it as well, and yeah, it's all about knowing your body, going with your gut, and just giving young girls and women information on smear tests, checking your body, knowing your body, the importance of making sure your voice is heard, making sure your concerns are heard. And yeah, it's awesome, and hoping to get that into some spaces for people. I'm hoping that we may have to like print more. Yeah, it's exciting, and there's so many things that we can do with it as well. And the reason I wanted to do it is because I don't think enough is done especially for young girls in school. Like when I was in school, I don't remember being told what a smear test is. I think we were just about told about periods. I think it was more about here's your pads and Tampax or whatever. And that was it. Like we weren't told anything about kind of like smear tests, knowing your bodies, how to check your breasts, anything like that. So I think it's really, really important, and that's why we've put this together. So yeah, very exciting stuff, very cool stuff, very proud. And I think that is it. So to end this almost hour-long episode, I can't believe I've talked for like an hour on my own. I never thought that I'd be able to do that. Music is a very important part of my life. I have been going to gigs or shows, however you want to call them, from, I think, the age of, like, on my own from the age of, like, 15. And ever since then, music has been a huge part of my life. And I want to incorporate that in with the podcast. So at the end of every episode, I want to have, like, a soundtrack to my cancer journey. Don't know if that's a bit cliche, but fuck it. That's what I want to do. And I love music. I love making music recommendations. I love having music recommendations. So, yeah, I think it's really important to have music in your life. So, the music recommendation at the end of this podcast is going to be for a band called 4 Years Strong. And the reason behind that is because when I was diagnosed, I found it really difficult to listen to certain types of music, especially like heavy music. I don't know why, I just couldn't do it. And the only thing that I could listen to without getting like an emotional wreck all of the time was 4 Years Strong. So because this is called Ocular Melanoma, this is going to be the song or the soundtrack to that. And the song is called We All Float Down Here. So enjoy. I'm hoping to put this on the end of the podcast, and Spotify should just kick it in. But if for any reason I can't do it and it doesn't do it, just please go listen to it. And that's it. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I can't believe it's hit 1 hour. So if you have any feedback again or any recommendations for future episode, please message me. And look after yourselves. Go for your eye test. Together, we can rise above cancer.